final holographic displays faded. 12 beings of wildly different shapes and sizes sat around the central table. Some had multiple limbs, others floated in containment suits filled with strange liquids, but all shared a common expression of mild curiosity mixed with dismissal. "Another primitive world," sighed the eldest council member, a tall, willowy creature whose skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns. "The third one this cycle." Far from the grandeur of the Galactic Council's meeting place, a small blue-green planet spun quietly around an unremarkable yellow star. Earth had finally been noticed. The Council's deep space scanners had picked up radio signals from this backwater world during their routine sweep of the galaxy's outer spiral arm. Initial data seemed hardly worth their attention. Humans were physically unimpressive creatures, soft-skinned, with no natural armor, claws, or enhanced senses. Their bodies were fragile compared to 90% of the known spacefaring races. Their lifespans were remarkably short, barely reaching a single century, while the youngest council member species routinely lived for over 1,000 years. "Their weapons are primitive," noted the defense analyst, a hulking reptilian being whose ancestors had evolved in heavy gravity. "Nuclear fission, basic ballistics, rudimentary directed energy. Nothing that could threaten an interstellar civilization." Detailed scans revealed humans had no telepathic abilities, no natural defenses against toxins that most advanced species had long ago developed, and required constant sustenance and rest cycles. Their planet was divided into bickering nation-states, still fighting over resources and ideology. "Classic pre-unity civilization," commented the sociological expert, whose 6 eyes blinked in sequence. "They'll either destroy themselves or eventually form a planetary government. Nothing remarkable here. After 3 hours of discussion, considered extremely brief by Council standards, Earth was officially classified as a Class 3 non-threat. This designation was reserved for worlds that posed no danger to galactic security and could be safely monitored from a distance. "Send a standard observation team," ordered the Council leader, whose crystalline body refracted light into dazzling patterns. "Document their behaviors, analyze their potential, determine if they're worth contacting in the next century or two." Within days, a cloaked observation vessel entered Earth's orbit. Its crew of 12 specialists represented the finest scientific minds the Council could spare for such a routine mission. They expected to complete their assessment quickly, file their report, and move on to more interesting assignments. The chief observer peered at the planet through the ship's viewing portal. "Another world of creatures who think they're the center of the universe," he remarked, with the weariness of someone who had seen hundreds of such worlds. Little did the observation team know that their routine mission would soon upend 5,000 years of galactic conventional wisdom. The beings they watched with such casual scientific interest would soon force the Council to create an entirely new classification category. For beneath the unimpressive physical statistics and technological measurements lay something the Council's instruments couldn't detect: a uniquely human combination of adaptability, tenacity, and tactical thinking that would shock the galaxy's most advanced civilizations to their core. The observers settled in to watch, completely unaware they were studying what would soon be recognized as the most dangerous intelligent species yet discovered. The observation team huddled around their monitoring equipment, their original boredom now replaced by stunned silence. What had begun as routine surveillance of human military operations had turned into something none of them had expected. "This can't be right," whispered the team's tactical analyst, his 4 eyes blinking rapidly in disbelief. "Check the readings." Again. On their screens, a small human military unit of just 20 soldiers was completely surrounded in a mountain valley. Enemy forces had cut off all escape routes. The humans were outgunned, outnumbered 5 to 1, running low on supplies, and 3 of their soldiers were badly wounded. "By all logical calculations, they should surrender," said the mission commander. "The odds of survival are less than 8%. But the humans didn't surrender. Instead, the alien observers watched in growing amazement as the trapped soldiers split into smaller groups and began using the terrain to their advantage. They created decoys from spare equipment, used the natural echo of the valley to make their numbers seem larger, and set traps with remarkable ingenuity. "Look at this one," pointed the weapons specialist, focusing on a soldier who had been shot in the arm an hour earlier. Despite the injury, the human was now working furiously to rig explosives from damaged equipment parts. Its efficiency has actually increased after being wounded. That contradicts everything we know about combat psychology. As night fell, the humans became even more effective. They moved with surprising silence through the darkness, using hit-and-run tactics that confused and demoralized their enemies. By dawn, the supposedly doomed unit had somehow managed to capture an enemy communications post. "They're not just trying to survive," realized the communications expert. "They're fighting to win." The lead xenobiologist, who had remained quiet for hours, finally spoke. "I've studied 17,000 species across the galaxy, and I've never seen anything like this. These humans don't just accept the logical outcome when cornered, they change." The team watched as the wounded soldiers, who should have been the weakest links, took the most dangerous positions. One human with a serious leg injury crawled 2 miles through rocky terrain to provide targeting information for his comrades. By the third day, the impossible happened. The surrounded unit not only broke through the enemy lines, but had somehow managed to capture their command center. The enemies, despite their superior numbers and firepower, surrendered to the humans. "Did you notice?" asked the xenobiologist, her voice unusually quiet. "The more desperate their situation became, the more dangerous they got. It's like pain and fear don't weaken them. They're fuel." The mission commander looked troubled. "This doesn't match their classification as non-threatening primitives." Later that night, the xenobiologist added a personal note to her official report. "Humans appear to possess a unique trait we've never observed in any spacefaring species. When most intelligent beings are wounded or trapped, their effectiveness decreases as survival instincts take over. Humans show the opposite response. They become more focused, more creative, and significantly more lethal. This requires immediate further study." The observation team sent their urgent findings to the Council, unaware they had just witnessed the first piece of evidence that would soon change how the entire galaxy viewed the unassuming bipeds of Earth. The Emergency Council session stretched into its 4th day. The Grand Chamber, normally a place of measured debate, now hummed with anxious energy as data continued to pour in from the expanded human surveillance network. "I want every historical record analyzed," ordered the council leader, tapping a gnarled appendage against the table. "If these humans are truly as unusual as the observation team suggests, I want proof." Teams of the galaxy's finest xenohistorians and military analysts were deployed. They tapped into Earth's digital networks, downloaded libraries worth of information, and began the most comprehensive study of human history ever conducted. What they found left them deeply disturbed. "Most species follow a predictable pattern," explained the chief historian to the assembled council. The holographic display behind him showed evolutionary timelines of dozens of advanced civilizations. As they develop technology, they grow more peaceful. Warfare becomes ceremonial, then diplomatic, then historical. This is the natural way. He waved a limb and the display changed to show human history. "These creatures are different." The timeline revealed a species that had never stopped refining the art of warfare. From simple clubs to nuclear weapons, humans had walked a path where technological advancement and combat evolution moved in lockstep. They created medical technology to heal their wounded, then used the same knowledge to create more effective biological weapons. They split the atom to power their cities, then immediately built bombs with the same science. "This suggests a dangerous mentality," noted the security director, her scales flickering with concern. "They don't separate development spheres. Everything is potential weaponry." But what truly alarmed the council came next. The massive circular chamber fell silent as "We've identified a trait no other known species possesses," said the military analyst, his voice unnaturally flat. "Humans not only learn from defeat, they actively incorporate their enemies' tactics and technology." The evidence was undeniable. Throughout human history, defeated nations had watched their own innovations turned against them. Military doctrines spread between adversaries. Weapons captured in one conflict appeared improved in the next. "This shouldn't be possible," muttered one council member. "Species naturally resist adopting external methods. It's hardwired into cognitive evolution." Yet humans showed no such resistance. They seemed almost eager to take anything useful from their enemies and improve upon it. "There's more," continued the analyst. "Unlike us, they conduct warfare across all domains simultaneously: physical, psychological, technological, economic, and they adapt with remarkable speed." The council reviewed case studies: primitive armies that had defeated technologically superior forces through creative tactics, nations that rose from devastating defeats to become dominant powers within a single generation, military leaders who turned apparent disadvantages into strengths. "They apply this adaptation skill to everything," observed the science director. "Not just warfare. Their entire civilization constantly transforms itself." As the briefing concluded, an uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber. The implications were clear. If humans ever reached the stars, they would not follow the predictable patterns of other species. They would not play by the established rules of galactic diplomacy. "We have always categorized species by their technological achievement," said the eldest council member finally. "Perhaps with humans we should measure them by their adaptability instead, and by that measure they may already be more advanced than we are." The testing facility sprawled across an isolated moon, hidden beneath an electromagnetic shield. Inside, the council had constructed 12 distinct environments, from scorching deserts to freezing tundra, underwater caverns to dense jungles. "Is this really necessary?" asked the ethics officer, watching as unconscious test subjects were transported to their designated chambers. "Abducting sentient beings for testing violates our own laws." "The Security Council has granted a special exemption," replied the project director firmly. "If humans are truly as adaptable as our studies suggest, we need to see it firsthand." The test was simple but thorough. Place representatives from 20 different species in survival scenarios, monitor their responses, and compare results. Humans were included in each group, taken carefully from different regions of Earth while they slept, their memories temporarily modified to prevent panic. "Wake the subjects," ordered the director. In the observation center, dozens of screens lit up, showing the test subjects regaining consciousness in their strange new surroundings. The aliens, many from advanced civilizations, reacted predictably. Confusion followed by careful assessment, then methodical survival techniques. The humans were different from the first moment. "Look at Group 7, pointed the behavioral scientist. On the screen, a human woke in a harsh desert environment alongside 3 other species. Instead of panicking, the human immediately began gathering materials, creating shade, and searching for water. But what truly surprised the observers came next. Within hours, the human had approached the other species and began attempting communication through gestures and drawings in the sand. "They're trying to form a team," noted the scientist with surprise. "Most species establish territory first and maintain distance for at least 3 days. By the second day, patterns emerged across all test groups. The humans consistently took leadership roles, not through dominance, but through a strange combination of demonstrated competence and social connection. They shared resources instead of hoarding them, taught techniques to others, and seemed to instinctively understand the biological needs of completely alien species." "Group 3's scenario is unreasonably difficult," remarked one observer. "We calculated a 12% survival probability, even for advanced species." On the screen, a flooding cavern was rapidly filling with toxic water. The designated escape route had been intentionally blocked. Logic dictated conservation of energy and acceptance of the inevitable. Instead, the human was organizing a rotating team to search for alternatives while constructing an elevated platform from debris. "They should have given up hours ago," muttered the psychological expert. "It's irrational to expend energy when failure is statistically certain." But the humans never accepted failure as certain. And most disturbing of all, they inspired the same attitude in other species. "The Vrexian in Group 10 has adopted human behaviors," noted the chief scientist with alarm. "They're a naturally solitary species, yet it's mimicking human collaboration patterns. By the 5th day, Every single test group had surpassed survival expectations. Groups with humans had not only survived, but had begun improving their environments, creating tools and, in 3 cases, had discovered monitoring devices. "Terminate the testing," ordered the council representative, her voice tight with concern. "We've seen enough." As the test subjects were returned to their worlds, memories carefully adjusted, the final report contained one sentence that would change galactic security protocols forever. Humans don't just adapt to survive, they cause everything around them to adapt as well. "This proposal is absurd." The defense minister's voice echoed through the council chamber, his metallic exoskeleton clanking as he gestured dramatically. "Reclassifying humans as a Class 1 threat. They can barely survive on their own planet." The emergency session had stretched into its 3rd day. Tempers flared as the 12 most powerful beings in the galaxy debated the fate of a species that didn't even know they existed. "Look at the facts," countered the science director, her translucent body pulsing with agitation. "Humans lack physical advantages, yes. They have no natural armor, no enhanced strength, no biological weapons. But that's precisely what makes them dangerous. They compensate through other means." Holographic displays around the chamber showed footage from the testing scenarios. Humans creating tools from nothing. Humans forming alliances with traditionally hostile species. Humans refusing to accept defeat even when all logic said they should. "Many species are clever," dismissed the defense minister. "Many are adaptable. But Class 1 is our highest threat designation. It's reserved for civilizations capable of interstellar warfare." "The humans will reach the stars soon enough," said the intelligence chief quietly. "Their technological progress is accelerating. What took other species millennia, they accomplish in decades." The trade minister, a massive being who floated in a gravity-nullifying chamber, spoke next. "I've reviewed their economic models. Other species develop technology, then stabilize. Humans constantly disrupt their own systems. They replace functioning technologies with better ones, even at enormous social cost. It's unsettling." "They're still primitives," insisted the defense minister. "Their bodies are fragile, their lifespans are short, their weapons are toys, compared to ours." A hush fell over the chamber as the oldest council member finally stirred. Ancient beyond measure, the elder rarely spoke, but when she did, all listened. Her species had evolved when most others were still primitive microbes. "I have witnessed the extinction of 3 civilizations," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, yet somehow filling the room. "The Drassids were physically superior to every species in their sector. The Mavorians had technology that could reshape planets. The Tulaxians had minds that could bend reality itself." She paused, her ancient eyes scanning the room. "All of them are gone, not because they were weak, but because they failed to recognize a different kind of strength. With a gesture, she brought up new images: human history, human warfare, human innovation. "Humans possess a combination I have never seen before. Intelligence directed by aggression, yet controlled by compassion. They fight not just for survival, but for abstract concepts. They form bonds not just with their own kind, but with anything they recognize as sentient. And most dangerous of all, they learn from everything, especially failure." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The class system was created to categorize threat levels based on physical and technological capability, the elder continued. "Perhaps it's time we recognized that the most dangerous predator isn't always the one with the sharpest claws." 3 hours later, the vote was taken. By the narrowest margin in council history, humanity was reclassified as a Class 1 potential threat, the highest possible designation. As the session ended, the defense minister approached the elder. "I hope you're wrong about them." "So do I," she replied, gazing at an image of Earth floating peacefully in space. "So do I." The infiltration team slipped into human society with perfect disguises. Their molecular reconstructors had given them flawless human appearances down to the smallest detail. After 6 months of intensive preparation, the 5-member team had been deployed to different regions of Earth, places the Council identified as military and cultural centers. "Day 97 of observation," recorded the team leader, speaking softly into a subdermal communicator as he walked through a busy city street. We continue to revise our initial assessments. The team had come to Earth expecting to find sophisticated weapon systems and advanced military strategies that might explain the surprising results from earlier studies. What they found instead was far more concerning. Their technology is exactly as primitive as we thought, reported the weapons specialist, who had infiltrated a major defense contractor. But their use of it is creative. They don't wait for perfect solutions. They implement imperfect ones and improve them continuously. The cultural analyst, who had positioned herself in a university, made the most surprising discovery. Other species evolve toward uniform thinking as they advance. Humans do the opposite. They deliberately maintain different cultures, languages, and viewpoints. They argue constantly. How is that an advantage? Questioned the team leader during their encrypted meeting. Because their arguments drive innovation, she explained, her eyes wide with realization. They compete with each other as much as they cooperate. Ideas battle for dominance. Where our species seek consensus, they seek successful outcomes regardless of whose idea it was. The psychological expert had spent 3 months in areas of ongoing human conflict. His findings were equally disturbing. I've observed humans show extraordinary compassion, risking their lives to save enemies, building hospitals in war zones, and then minutes later engaging in brutal combat. There's no cognitive dissonance. They compartmentalize violence in ways no other species can. Explain, demanded the team leader. Most sentient beings are either peaceful or aggressive. Humans can be both, switching between states with remarkable ease. A human soldier can kill efficiently, then immediately provide medical care to civilians or even wounded enemies. They don't become consumed by aggression or paralyzed by compassion. The final team member, who had focused on historical analysis, completed the disturbing picture. They learn from everyone and everything. If they see useful tactics from enemies, they adopt them. If they observe successful strategies in nature, they copy them. They have no evolutionary resistance to borrowing ideas. As their deployment reached the 6-month mark, the infiltration team compiled their comprehensive report. It wasn't the weapons factories or military bases that represented humanity's true strength. It was something far more fundamental, a psychological and cultural toolkit unlike anything in the galaxy. Final assessment, recorded the team leader on their last night. Humans are dangerous not because of what they can build, but because of how they think. They thrive in conditions that would cause any other species to collapse. They create community through conflict. They innovate through disagreement. And most concerning of all, they see possibilities where others see only obstacles. The emergency alert blared through the Council's communication network, interrupting all regular activities. A Zarthian merchant vessel, damaged in an asteroid collision, had been forced to make an emergency landing on Earth, breaking the strict non-contact protocol. "Pull up the surveillance feed immediately," ordered the Council leader, her crystalline form vibrating with tension. Within moments, the holographic display showed a smoking spacecraft half buried in snow. The landing site was a remote mountain region, but nearby sensors detected a small human settlement just 20 kilometers away. "Deploy containment teams," instructed the security director. "We need to extract the Zarthian crew before humans discover them." But it was already too late. Local rescue teams had spotted the crash and were approaching the site. The Council watched in tense silence, expecting the humans to react with fear or aggression toward the clearly non-human visitors. What happened next stunned them. The first humans to reach the crash site, ordinary rescue workers, not soldiers, immediately began providing medical assistance to the injured Zarthian crew. Despite having never seen an alien species before, the humans calmly applied emergency medical techniques, adapting their procedures to the aliens' unfamiliar physiology. "They're trying to help them," whispered one council member in disbelief. Even more surprisingly, instead of panicking at this confirmation that they weren't alone in the universe, the humans attempted communication using pictures, simple gestures, and eventually a rudimentary translation system cobbled together with portable computing devices. "This contradicts all first-contact behavioral models," noted the xenopsychologist. But the situation deteriorated rapidly. The Zarthian captain, rather than showing gratitude, saw an opportunity. As more humans arrived, including a small military unit sent to secure the area, the Zarthians suddenly grabbed 3 human medical workers. "They're taking hostages," observed the security director, a standard Zarthian negotiation tactic. Through crude translation, the Zarthian captain demanded a fully fueled transport and safe passage, threatening to kill the hostages if opposed. The council observers expected a standoff, negotiations, perhaps even capitulation from the shocked humans. They were wrong. The response came with a speed and precision that left the council observers speechless. While the Zarthian captain was still making demands, the small human military unit had already positioned themselves. They didn't hesitate or debate. They acted. "They're using the weather," realized the military analyst, watching as the humans used the blowing snow for cover. "And they've identified the Zarthians' visual limitations without being told." What followed was a masterclass in tactical efficiency. The human soldiers moved in perfect coordination, using non-lethal methods to incapacitate most of the Zarthians while simultaneously extracting all 3 hostages. The entire operation took less than 2 minutes. "That's impossible," murmured the defense minister. "They've never encountered this species before. How did they identify vulnerabilities so quickly?" The answer became clear as the council reviewed the footage. The humans had been watching, learning and adapting from the moment they arrived. Every interaction, every movement, every reaction had been catalogued and analyzed. When the moment came to act, they already knew more about the Zarthians than the Zarthians realized. "This confirms our worst fears," said the council leader quietly. "They don't just adapt after conflict, they adapt during it. Even veteran warriors from advanced worlds would be impressed by that response time." As emergency council containment teams finally arrived to clean up the situation and modify human memories, one thing was abundantly clear. Humanity's classification as a Class 1 threat had been entirely justified. The emergency analysis session had been underway for 3 straight days. The council's finest minds gathered in the secure chamber, reviewing every second of footage from the crashed ship incident. Sleep cycles were forgotten as the implications grew more disturbing with each new insight. "Look here," said the chief, evolutionary biologist, freezing a frame showing a human soldier's face as he prepared to rescue the hostages. "Notice the expression. The pupils are dilated, heart rate elevated, adrenaline pumping, classic predator response. But simultaneously," she flipped to another angle, "observe the hand signals, the coordinated movements. Perfect rational control layered over primal instinct." The psychology director nodded slowly. "Most species follow one of 2 evolutionary paths. Predator species either suppress their aggressive instincts as they advance or remain dominated by them. Humans have done neither." On the main screen, detailed brain scans of humans in various situations played in sequence. The patterns were unlike anything in the galactic database. "They've somehow harnessed their predatory nature rather than evolving beyond it," continued the director. "Look at these neural pathways. When threatened, both the primitive and advanced parts of their brains activate simultaneously. They don't choose between instinct and reason. They use both." The technology analyst spoke next, her voice hushed with reluctant admiration. "Their tools reflect this duality. Most species develop technology that compensates for evolutionary weaknesses. Humans build tools that amplify their predatory advantages, extending reach, enhancing senses, multiplying force. But the most concerning element," interjected the tactical expert, "is their psychological adaptability. During the hostage situation, they didn't just respond to the threat. They predicted the Zarthians' behavior without prior knowledge of the species." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. "How is this possible?" asked the council leader finally. "We believe humans possess an unusual ability to model other minds," explained the psychology director. "They instinctively create internal simulations of how others think. It's a predatory adaptation, originally for hunting, but they've developed it to extraordinary levels." The display showed humans in various environments, interacting with different species during the controlled tests. In each case, the humans had quickly identified the others' motivations, fears, and desires. then use that understanding to establish cooperation or, when necessary, dominance. They're not just physical predators, said the chief analyst gravely. They're psychological predators. They instinctively seek to understand, predict, and if necessary, manipulate any intelligence they encounter. The science director brought up comparative evolutionary charts. Other predatory species lost this aggressive adaptability as they advanced. It became unnecessary with technology, but humans retained it, refined it, and integrated it with their higher cognitive functions. In essence, concluded the psychology director, they combine the raw survival drive of a primal predator with the strategic thinking of an advanced civilization and the emotional complexity needed to form genuine connections. This combination doesn't exist anywhere else in the galaxy. The council leader stared at the final report, her ancient eyes troubled. Then we face something unprecedented. A species that hasn't abandoned the qualities that make predators dangerous, but has instead elevated those qualities into something far more powerful. As the session ended, one chilling observation remained in everyone's mind. Humans didn't just hunt with their bodies or their weapons, they hunted with their minds. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so full. Representatives from all 12 member civilizations crowded the tiered seating, while hundreds more joined through quantum projection. The topic that had drawn this unprecedented assembly, how to safely approach a species that every analysis now confirmed was unlike any they had encountered before. The evidence is conclusive, announced the council leader, her voice echoing through the vast space. Though humans lack the physical advantages of traditional apex species, their combination of adaptability, psychological insight, and controlled aggression places them in a category of their own. Hushed conversations rippled through the chamber. On the central display, Earth rotated slowly, a deceptively peaceful blue world harboring what many now considered the most dangerous intelligent species in known space. We have 3 options, continued the leader. First, continued isolation, maintaining the quarantine around their solar system. Second, preemptive security measures. She paused delicately, not needing to elaborate on what that meant. Or third, accelerated diplomatic contact. The defense minister rose immediately. Security measures are the only logical choice. Every analysis confirms they're predators. Their history is written in blood. The chamber erupted in debate. For hours, arguments flew back and forth. Isolation risked humans developing interstellar travel on their own, potentially discovering the galactic community unprepared. Security measures, a euphemism for containment or worse, risked awakening exactly the dangerous potential they feared. The elder, who had remained silent throughout, finally spoke. "You're all missing something crucial," she said, her ancient voice cutting through the noise. "Review the psychological profiles again. Despite their predatory capabilities, humans don't see themselves as predators." On the displays, images appeared from Earth's own transmissions, humans exploring harsh environments, protecting endangered species, sacrificing for strangers. Their self-image is as explorers and protectors, continued the elder. This makes them both more and less dangerous than we thought. More dangerous because their potential for both creation and destruction is virtually limitless. Less dangerous because they can be approached through this self-perception. The strategic director nodded slowly. Predators make terrible enemies, but exceptional allies. By day's end, the vote was taken. The council would establish the Terran Engagement Protocol, a comprehensive framework for carefully orchestrated first contact. "We acknowledge humanity as the galaxy's apex predators," read the formal declaration, "not despite their physical limitations, but because they transcend them." The protocol was meticulous, drawing from everything learned through observation. Approach humans as equals, appeal to their curiosity and protective instincts. Never attempt deception, engage their tendency to form bonds across species. Show respect for their diverse cultures. As the historic session concluded, the intelligence director approached the elder privately. "Do you really believe we can safely integrate them into galactic society?" he asked. The elder's ancient eyes turned toward the image of Earth. "Consider the alternatives," she replied. "If we treat them as enemies, they will become exactly that. But if we approach them as potential allies, offering knowledge and partnership—" She paused. "Besides, I've learned one truth across countless civilizations. It's far better to have the apex predator hunting beside you than hunting you."